on! Do not squander it. The legacy I leave you.
Remember that we once lived.
Well, Kyle,
Yes, Garrett.
I've had a lot of time to think about what we just witnessed, and my head hurts. I think I might be the closest to understanding how Meteion felt after talking to all of those civilizations.
It's a lot. Yeah, there's a lot going on, including the final cutscene and the Hermes stuff, the Hermes paradox.
We're gonna add one more to the list.
I'm very excited to hear what you have to say today. I enjoyed looking back. You are now looking in the present and the future. Maybe we're both thinking about the future a little bit. This is definitely the most I have considered a series of cutscenes, because we actually have most, if not all, of the pieces needed to understand these cutscenes now.
The revelation at the end of Ktisis is the single biggest missing puzzle piece, I think, in all of the Final Fantasy XIV MSQ so far. I don't know if maybe there's more revelations after this, but
I need a break.
I'm going to foolishly say that I think I know where it's going from here. Broad strokes wise.
Sure.
I'm sure there's gonna be details I can't call, who lives, who dies, that kind of a thing. Hell, I've even seen the Dawn Trail trailer, but I don't trust myself because I watched the Shadowbringers trailer and I thought they were bringing back Minfilia. So
we still don't know what's going to happen with Zenos. I assume he
seems such small potatoes now.
Small, tiny little potatoes.
Tiny little moon envy potatoes.
He's either linked with the Meteion void spirit, but I don't think she's a void spirit, so he's maybe connected to something. See, that's the weird part.
We've essentially teed up Akasha versus Ether. Like, Akasha versus Ether seems to be where this is going. I'm still a little fuzzy about it, when it's just like stream of consciousness for a second. How the fuck did Hermes make something out of Akasha if they can't even manipulate Akasha? I really don't quite understand what's going on there.
He left enough empty space that Akasha could be interacted with.
Okay.
So Meteion was ethereally light.
So he built a Bird Girl Gundam and the pilot is Akasha?
I would say more like a Bird Girl balloon that can be filled with Akasha.
So he built a balloon and the helium is Akasha.
Yes.
And he has no control over
how much gets pumped into there.
It'd be more like if you could affect helium after it was in a balloon.
More like a kite or a windsock. Because we're not pushing Dynamis into it.
It's long enough that I think we can suspend the tragedy of what actually happened there. Let's think of it more like the Hindenburg. Because they built something, they filled it with something they thought would work, and they didn't really contend for the unforeseen consequences of what happens to the element that is making this invention go when exposed to extreme conditions.
I think that works. Runaway engineering. I like it.
And also this entire thing is tragic. Like, everything going on in the story is a horrible tragedy until you get to Vinod's cutscene, but we're gonna...
Well, that may be a well-made cutscene, but still tragic because...
It is still tragic, but I think it is also extremely hopeful. A lot rattling around up here, but it all mostly makes sense to me. I don't have a lot of lingering questions other than, how does it end? How does it end?
And what does Zenos have to do with it?
But I do want to talk to you about it, because this section... Ooh! We need to talk about the bird in the room.
The bird, yes.
Yeah, the bird is, in fact, the word.
Bird person.
Bird people.
Yeah, we don't meet the other people yet.
What do they referred to them as plural once? I think it was media?
Sisters was also how they were referred to.
They refer to them as sisters a lot, but I'm assuming they're all like I'm assuming carbon copies. They're all just Meteons. Made a bunch of Meteons.
I'm assuming they're going to congeal. I mean, we saw a lot of congealing in Near Raid.
They're like Teslas. You know, they make a bunch of Model 3s, but every once in a while, one of them catches on fire. We drag Emmett through a waterfall.
Some of us did. We do a bit of gameplay that solidifies that Meteion is not easy to catch. She's hard to track, and that's why she's never been found. Before the final days went down, they had to resort to Zodiark. Whether or not you like the gameplay of chasing Meteion around, it doesn't matter. It made it clear that she is stealthy, and they could not find her and her collective hive before the final days started. And that's why Zodiark was an essential piece of this puzzle.
And then we menacingly corner Meteion.
She is under arrest. And so is Hermes.
But Hermes is part of the arrest. Hermes makes a conscious decision in the middle of the arrest to abscond with the criminal or to become a criminal himself. Oh shit, I like Hermes. Hermes is Paul Walker in Fast and the Furious.
You move like an Asian.
So Meteion is Dominic Toretto, and Hermes is Brian with the key to the Supra, and at the very end gives it to Dom so he can continue running from the authorities.
That, or you could say the documentary got really good and he didn't want to put it away. He was reading classified documents and they got real spicy.
That's a good point. Up until that point, I was still, because Hermes and Meteion are both. It's up for interpretation, especially if you believe in the death of the author. But I feel like the game frames Meteion and Hermes in a sympathetic light. The game believes, the writers of Final Fantasy XIV believe that Hermes and Meteion are sympathetic, that they are tragic characters that had the propensity for good, but because of their circumstance, of their surroundings, ended up doing horrible, horrible things.
Well, Meteion is a tool, you could say. She's completely innocent.
It's a little mean to call her a tool, but I see where you're going with it.
She was created for a purpose. What's my purpose? To freak out when you find despair. Oh my God.
Boy, do you think do you see them as sympathetic?
Absolutely.
Because we don't have to agree with the game.
But I do.
I do too. I think they're sympathetic. And up to this point, I was still sympathetic with Hermes.
He shouldn't freak out like he did while putting down the wolf thing. That was a little extreme. However, we can all see where he structured those thoughts in a world where everything that's being created in pursuit of perfection is free to be destroyed at any point when it can be trained to fly.
The lichen was a means to an end. It was a piece of the puzzle so that we could experience what looked like a last straw, when in reality it's the straw before the last straw, and Meteion is the last straw. The lichen was there just so we had it established a history of Hermes being really depressed about the reality of what happens to his creations that don't pass muster. All of it sets up and makes his decisions make sense once we get to the scene with Meteion. It makes absolute sense. Of course, he would want to not only protect Meteion, but also selfishly want the full answer to what he sees as his crowning achievement, making these entelechies and firing them off into the cosmos.
He also goes a step further, we've been told by the game, to get naked when he transforms himself into this.
They don't literally get naked.
No, but it is a shameful thing. You shouldn't do that in front of others.
And I think I think that was brought up to show that Hermes basically has no shame.
Right, that he is breaking decorum.
He breaks decorum. It is normal for him. It's just another Tuesday for him to make another life form, not register it, make Meteion and keep her under his wing. Under a loophole.
Well, and the expectations of the scientist up on the bridge, that was like, I can't wait till we get to find out all about this. Now, that was never going to happen. No one was ever going to, he was never going to publish the papers about what he found out there. Maybe someday if it was really, really interesting, but he'd already performed so many illegal actions.
It's like a crime of passion. The way we see it roll out, he's like, no, I want to hear the end of this. Give me at least until the end of this. And he didn't know how he was going to react. He didn't go to Ktisis knowing he was going to turn on his entire people and then erase their and his own memory of what happened.
You can even mirror it to when Vana sunders everyone in the line she says, as a very similar situation. A dissatisfaction with the world around them and the lengths they're willing to go to try to save what they perceive to be their society.
While sympathetic, Hermes still basically becomes what he hates. If he hates his fellow ancient brethren so much because they routinely put down their creations without really any remorse, getting to the point where you're like, all right, we can all just die because we're flawed. While technically correct in his reasoning, he's also just becoming another ancient, offing a creation because it's flawed.
To an extent, you could also interpret it that he is helping his society reach what he perceives to be the real end goal, which is death. They think the end goal is perfection, when really, after watching the documentary that is the hive mind of Meteion, he knows the real end goal is nothingness.
I don't think I agree with that.
That's why when Fandaniel dies, he's like, I did it, everybody. Toot toot. Woo woo. Bring on the despair.
But I've the wisdom of 10 millennia to justify my answer to the question. No value in their existence. Not a whit. For all that I looked. None that I did see.
I think to a certain degree, but also at the end of all of this, and now we're jumping all over the place, but F it. At the end of all of this, he gives his people a chance, and himself. He even says, like, all right, I'm going to wind the clock back on our memory, and if we find a way to overcome this, then we deserve to live.
He almost challenges himself and his society.
A final chance, then, for Heidelin and her faithful. In Cataclysm, prove me wrong. I snare.
Yeah, and also proves that he is very much a victim of circumstance, because when put in another circumstance by meddling with his own memories, he joins the convocation and tries to stop the final days. He does put an honest effort to try and stop the final days as Fandaniel.
That way you're mirroring Emmett, who says, come face me, and if you win, I'll accept your way of life.
What I'm trying to say is that I believe the writers of Final Fantasy XIV very much believe in nurture over nature.
That's reflected in the whole Vana seeding the journey storyline.
Vana seeding the journey, Yatsuyu and her amnesia, and now Emmett, Hithlo, and Hermes/Fandaniel getting to make new decisions based on altered memories.
He tried to have his cake and eat it too. He wanted Meteion to be free, and regardless of the ramifications of that, he wanted to give his society a chance to battle what truth she was going to unleash.
He kind of did get to have his cake and eat it too.
He kind of did.
Again, he made like a baker's dozen. I don't know the confirmed number.
It's a weird
Meteions,
cake,
but
yeah, layered
like a cake. Like all the best cakes are layered.
Exactly.
So we get to Ktisis.
The dungeon.
Hyperboreia.
Good name.
It is a good name. Good dungeon.
Yeah, a little mad scientist lab.
I really enjoy this dungeon. I don't have a ton to say beyond just kind of fanning out. I love the fact that it's how Emmett created Amarat was a testing facility. Like, we just created a bunch of synthetic biomes with our magic to prove as a testing ground. They would make a phenomenal Pokemon gym designers.
I do like biomes. I like when they're touching each other. It doesn't bother me. I'll even see the seam at the top of the MMO zone and be like, yeah, great.
All good.
Fine. I'm just happy we changed zones. Now, they can't design a wolf for the life of them, those ancients, because that is definitely a cat.
That's the most cat-ass looking wolf I've
100%
ever
a cat.
Yeah, a cat wolf, my favorite Nickelodeon cartoon growing
I even
up.
go into that diary and call it a wolf just to insult us further.
That is a cat.
That is 100% a cat.
Probably my favorite thing about this was we watch Fandaniel die, after Zodiark, and I think to myself, I really thought we were going to fight him. Those cheeky bastards found a way.
Yep, in the past, but we did fight him. So I guess he was unsundered, so this would be his more powerful form. No, but then he's in the Zodiark, so who knows? The power levels are all over the place because there's a bubble over the entire dungeon preventing power levels from being too high. It's really quite genius. So you get to run alongside your fellow ancients, but they get to be of your level, in that like 90 or the 87 sphere. And you don't worry about it too much because, there's a bubble.
I would have liked it better if they were like, there's just you run the duty support and there's like a throwaway line of Emmett being like, oh, I guess I went a little too hard with making them corporeal. And Hitler being like, why are they hitting so hard? I would have liked it the other way. That just Emmett overdid it.
Yeah,
when he, made us manifest.
You want a double fan hit, which is Emmett's super cool and you're really cool.
I just think it would have been a simpler explanation. I didn't need the whole, I know you like it, but I'm like, I didn't need any of that. All this extraneous lore, but there's a bubble and it suppresses and the stuff thing.
But you do need it if you're
fine.
If you're concerned about that kind of thing, which I am. You may have watched the videos. The bubble equalizes, which is why Vana, Hythlodaeus, and Emmett and you are all the same power level, because what you're suggesting is you brought up to Emmett's power level, but Emmett's power level is different than Vana's power level because Vana's been around for a long time.
But Hythlo seems more impressed with Emmett than he does Vana.
Well, he's just complimenting him. They're best friends,
But it's all nebulous. They don't actually, it's not Dragon Ball Z. There's no one running around with a scouter. There's no confirmed power levels. It's all assumed.
Yes.
It's all assumed. So the point is, the bubble stays on during Selk.
Gross. So we do fight Van Daniel. Well, not Van Daniel yet. It's Hermes.
It's Hermes.
He just hasn't gotten a promotion yet.
We basically get to have the equivalent of our fight with Emmett/Hades, because when he dispenses with titles, he assumes a form not dissimilar from what Hermes looks like when Hermes transforms, all the way down to the caduceus staff.
Yes, the caduceus staff is cute. The one thing that bothers me about this, that means that okay, see, this is the part that bothers me. Because Emmett Selk is the title, right? Of the seat.
Emmett Selk is the title, Emmett Selk is the seat.
Yes.
So dispensing with titles, he becomes Hades, which was his name before he took up the station of Emmett Selk.
The seat, is in charge of the underworld. And his name happened to be Hades when he took on Emmett Selk.
Well, this is a world where
it doesn't matter and the names are made up.
Doesn't exist with Greco-Roman ideals.
I get it, but it's a little weird.
Ah, there you are.
Anyway,
I love in a fiction without Greece that annoys you so much.
It's just a little convenient is all. Anyway, he's windy. He's a windy boy. He's got all
He's a windy boy.
He's got wind attack because he's down with air, which, he's a master of flight. Makes sense. He made spacecrafts, so that works out. And he has made sparrows, blackbirds, personified bird girls.
Yep.
That can fly into space.
Yep. Well, they can turn into sparrows.
But he's been a little busy, setting up the defenses, trying to stop us from getting there, so he hasn't listened to the end of the report. Which, we're all kind of curious to hear it. Like, let's be real here.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Why wouldn't we want to hear it?
I know everyone else disagrees with Hermes, but me, the experiencer of this story goes, excuse me, hi, yes, I would like to hear the rest of it, please.
If you're going to flatter the ancients and all that, then, clearly they could have stopped this message from being received, but they wanted to hear it too. Everyone in the room wanted to hear what Meteion/Hive Mind wanted to say. It's interesting shit.
But didn't he chain us up? We were chained up as the rest of the message was delivered because Meteion's already black and white, and she asks Hermes to come with him, and he's like, "No, I'm good." And that's when he delivers the line that I'm going to give humanity a chance, myself included. I'm going to try and forestall the final days with the seed of Van Daniel. And then Meteion's like, "LOL, I was going to kill you if you said yes anyway."
They're going through with due process because they could have, LOL, smote her back at the...
Well, they need her alive because she can initiate a recall on her sisters.
Oh, that's a cute excuse. I didn't pick up on that.
Yeah.
So I got real excited when she was hive-minding. So I've clearly blacked out.
In the scene where everyone kind of corners Meteion out by the falls, Right before she suspends herself, she cries out, and through the link, we hear her say, protect them all. Not only is Hermes, I think, kind of vindicated as still a good person, because once he wipes his own memory, we confirm that he honestly tried to stop the final days as Fandaniel. So given another try, he tries to do the right thing. Meteion is kind of the opposite. Right before she goes under and becomes Media, like the hive mind of sisters, I think what she's saying by protect them all, I think she is telling us, the Warrior of Light, protect them all, the ancients, Emmet, Hythlodaeus, Vana, Hermes, like, and everyone else, all life that she knows her hive mind is going to want to destroy. That's how I'm interpreting it. And I think that was really cool because it means they're inversed. Like Meteion is sympathetic until the switch is flipped, and Hermes becomes non-sympathetic, but then the switch is flipped and you learn about what he did as Fandaniel and go, damn, there was still some good in that dude. There are these mirror inverses, and they're both just so tragic. It's delicious writing. Hey, Kyle, what do you make of the black and white flash on the moon and the creepy voice?
Now we know.
At last.
Yep.
Yeah, it's kind of obvious.
Meaty moving on. We get some absolutely beautiful time travel assisted hypocrisy from Emmett Selk in this cutscene. This isn't even the first time he's being hypocritical by assistance of time travel. Back when the table scene, and he's just like, that doesn't sound anything like me. That sounds exactly like me. You know, and storms out. In this scene with Hermes, you know, in the post-Ktisis cutscene.
Who are you to decide our fate? To decree we live or die?
Boy, I sure hope the Warrior of Light had like a yak back in his pocket so he can play that for Emmet of the future, because Emmet is the one that wants to decree who lives and who dies.
There's just excellent character work throughout this entire scene. Vana being the adventurer. She's got her little Batman / Spider-Man / whatever you want to call it tracer device that she throws out on the bird.
You said Spider-Man.
Vana is a superhero. Yes. And she has all these superhero attachments.
Well, that makes it. It's made of ether. Just everything. You just hand wave it. It's made of ether. It's ether. But it's also all ether. But it's all ether.
But it's also she can clearly create tracers because she can also bless things, put marks on things. It just makes sense. Hythlo's being a little Hythlo, sad, you know, down on himself, but it was a trick in the end, and he pulls it all around as a distraction.
Oh yeah. Oh, I love the inverted. I love the hero monologue, which is something that I really only think of as being from Doctor Who, because every other fiction I feel like it's the villains that always monologue, and you get it twofold here between Hythlo and Emmet just patting each other on the back while they talk about, oh, Hermes, yeah, you thought the confluence was over there, didn't ya? Didn't ya? Didn't ya? Didn't ya?
And it's cute because they're like, since we know you're an Azem, you're going to jump to save the shot, which clearly isn't going to kill you because you're awesome, so you're going to get knocked off. But we know Vana's down there to catch you because you got 2 dogs earlier.
And because it's Back to the Future and Marty jumps off at the top of Biff's tower and lands on the DeLorean.
It all makes sense.
Our kids turn out to be assholes.
Sometimes.
This is out of order, but before everything pops off, it's our first reference to the edge of the universe. Hermes tells Meteion to retreat to the edge of the universe.
Go, Meteion, to the edge of the universe, where none can reach you.
We're going to the edge of the universe.
Well, yes.
They'll probably come up with some name for it that I cannot pronounce.
Obviously. Because there she's going to congeal, fill up her balloon, merge with her sisters.
Balloons are full. Now we're just a balloon party.
But she's going to, she's going to go unleash the dynamis and become saturated with it.
It's going to be a car meet, but for nothing but Hindenburgs. Bring your Hindenburg out. A gathering of Hindenburgs.
Yep.
A gaggle of Hindenburgs. A murder of Hindenburgs.
That's too far.
A murder of Hindenburgs is too far. That's where you draw the line.
It's just too video game good to kick her ass, right? Because she is clearly committing wrong. She's too far gone. Maybe they'll have a nice little didn't mean to kind of moment when it's all over, a little hint, but she's not etherically dense anyway. There's not much of her left.
They could DBZ it, and after defeating Boo, Oob could come out of it, and you have a new life that is,
innocent,
good
and,
aligned.
Yeah, you could.
That kind of joins up with the group. But anyway.
I mean, there were just like pulling plot threads, because then you could have this little baby innocent thing pop out, and Zenos is like, gotta kill it because you were just best friending for the final fight, and then you're like, whoa, Zenos, that's too far. Don't kill the innocent thing.
Oh, that's right, because we still have Zenos. That would make sense that, maybe we, right before we smash the killing blow, Zenos finds some Guardian technology bullshit way to siphon all of the... It wouldn't even be Ether, it'd be Dynamis, it'd be Akasha. He's gotta be a threat, right? Like, the fact that Zenos shows up, we gotta fight him. Why do we fight him? Or are we heading into true frenemy territory and Zenos is gonna help us defeat Media?
For the eldest of primals was a betrayal of promise. A pathetic creature incapable of inspiring true despair. That's what I crave. Pure, unadulterated despair.
There's only 3 levels left. We don't have that much more to do.
I mean, do I even have time? Do I get to watch Fortuno cry? Do I get that? Do I have time for that? Are they just going to skip it?
We have been warned that even though there aren't that many quests left, that we are probably going to we probably have multiple streams still left, and I think the warning is because cutscene length.
Right.
So I think you're going to get to see Fortuno cry.
I hope so.
Or hopefully die.
Maybe.
I hope we get to watch Fortuno die.
Or he gets reborn or something on the other side of it.
I hope we get to watch Fortuno die.
Yeah.
Fortuno needs to die.
Damn.
Someone needs to die. Fortuno's an asshat.
He'd be a decent candidate.
And again, we play with the same character behaving differently because their history or their understanding or their memories are different. In this case, it's Emmett in the past as opposed to Emmett with his dying breath. And it's such an echo of itself. And I love it because as we fly off on the DeLorean dog, Emmett looks at the Warrior of Light and says,
Do not squander it. The legacy I leave you.
And I don't know about you, but I know the next cutscene does a lot of flashing back to the actual fight with Emmett, but I had my own personal flashback with this because if you don't think about remember us, remember that we once lived, like what are you even doing with this game?
And you go, but it's over your shoulder. It's, remember me, buddy. Oh, please make sure it's a good memory.
But it's great. It's Emmett. In the future, multiple times when we fight or interact with Emmett in Shadowbringers, he says we're not worthy of this legacy. But here we are, like way in the past, eons in the past, and this dude is just like, do it for our legacy.
You did just block a blow for Hythlodaeus.
But with the bubble around it.
Well, yeah, but still.
We took a bullet for his best friend.
And I think in that moment, there's
or roommate. I see you, shippers.
There could be a moment of realization that you're an equal. I mean, you just went on this big adventure together. You've been sleuthing together. You walked around in the water together. You chased the bird girl together. And if you're looking at the future and saying, is this what my people become? I think we're a pretty good representation. It's not a bad audition.
No, I agree with it entirely. I just think this game loves... I hate amnesia plots, dude. But this game it has so much fun with it. It's the same thing like how I hate the Endgame and fake deaths, but like at least they did something interesting with it. When Infinity War had the fake death and then Endgame, the beginning of it does some interesting shit with it. So I'm like, whatever. I forgive obviously they're all going to come back. That is the end of the Infinity War. And I feel the same way with like, usually I'm like, yeah, amnesia, the thing they do in soap operas. But here it's just another tool for character study. It's great. I love it.
I also dislike plot holes, but you need content. You need a lot of content. And sometimes that content can be super duper planned out. And sometimes it can kind of be a nice reference. Like for instance, Alexander's Locust song sings about a signal from space. Do I think that's Dynamis that he's picking up from? Probably not. It's a little weird. But what I do find interesting is things like Meteion's rundown of the individual planets, because something I've been interested in a long time is the Omega plot line.
You're so pointy.
Which is such a small piece of overall Omega. Omega is this bizarre amalgamation of Final Fantasy VII. What was it? It says 8 references with its bosses and its coffee machines, and Nero's sick on the floor, but also Nero was the one who unleashed it so it could fight a dragon in Shinryu. Like, Omega's whack. But there was a brief moment.
But you get to the end of Omega, and much like Alexander, suddenly it's relevant to the main story of Final Fantasy XIV.
Exactly, and Alpha goes on their walk through the stars. And there's a couple of these you can line up, which is really interesting, such as Frozen Star.
Dio. Ruined remnants of buildings scattered across star, surface of which is encased in ice. Presence of life could not be verified.
Barren Star.
Inea. Star is a barren desert. No identifiable flora found. Bones of living beings resembling men discovered beneath sands, but determination regarding their intelligence inconclusive.
Vortex Star, there's kind of maybe one in here that works for it.
Meteion rattles off so many civilizations. Like, I don't think you're really meant to like one-to-one connect them.
But the Dying Star also kind of lines up, so there's enough here that if we're concerned about where are we going to fit Zenos, I'm like, where are we going to fit dragons? Because Vitro was there being like, hey, remember how cool my dad was?
Well, I don't know exactly how it happens, but we're going to need to come together to save Aetheris. And it's going to be an Avengers Assemble moment. And I think it's going to be everyone living and dead. I think we're like going to crack open the life stream and all of our dead buddies are going to show up like at the end of Nidhogg to help us there. But also everyone that's like the Estinian showing up on the back of Vitra.
And it could be Midgard-Zermer's big comeback after he spent himself in Omega.
Oh, yes.
Because he was just a little tuckered.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Or do we need him? Because we have Vitra. I think Vitra is our, although it would be very cool if Midgard-Zermer made it.
One that's really cool, and one of the final ones that is talked about, is what could be the Omega building civilization. And this would be the quote,
Decapente. Local civilization once flourished under auspices of higher power. Said power later laid waste to civilization in fit of rage.
So that could be them inventing their own downfall. Or this could just be expansion fodder. This could just be, hey, it's 4 years from now, let's rip the auspices who destroyed this planet.
To me, that sounded a whole lot like another civilization inventing primals.
This says flourish under the auspice of a higher power. This could be gods. Or
the primals are gods to their worshippers.
Or it could be forerunners or ancient ones.
It could be anything. Although the primals we've run into, none of them seem like they would have remorse for killing out their worshippers. And in that same line, they say that the being that, wiped them out felt remorse and then decided to end it.
Yeah, because you would lose your power because you don't have any worshippers. But the primals also aren't the real Ifrit. They're the fake Ifrit as projected by the lizardmen. So that gets a little messy.
Oh, that can be interesting. So is that the real ones?
So it could be, it could be
those real primals?
Real level 120 Ifrit, right?
Well, we're going to 100 in Dawn Trail, so.
Yeah, I don't think it's happening in Dawn.
Because we need 2 more expansions.
Yeah, I think
And then we're going to that Dying Star.
They're going to let that lie a little bit.
We're going to find the original primals.
Yes.
It's just Koji and Soken playing guitar. That tracks.
Final expansion, just defeat the devs and be done with it. Send us off into the star.
Their death animation is just the planking that Yoshi does with the Red Bull in his hand.
Lots of, panning shots and lots of sadness and sad music.